I'm ready.
It says we're live on YouTube.
Wow.
There you go. That was quick, even though it hasn't streamed fully like as usual on my computer until 2 seconds ago. I just need to check that it doesn't do the weird sound thing.
No, I'm ready.
Yeah, you did the weird sound thing.
Yeah, I did the weird sound thing. Cool.
All right.
We are live after a little bit of a break, and we haven't been doing the podcast for a while, but now we're back in lockdown. Or, I don't know, in lockdown, consistently in lockdown, in and out. We've got Dave Porter on again to join us, to help us out, to get us through it. So thanks for joining us, Dave.
Oh, my pleasure. I just hate that you have to see video. Is there any way you could do this without my face? Like, save you all?
No, we don't want to ruin the experience.
Some people are listening on iTunes, they'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, for the people on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere else you get your podcasts. Cool.
Well, I talked to Haldor a little bit this morning. He gave me a really good idea, which is I'm going to try my best to come out in either May or June to Iceland. And then the BJJ Globetrotters folks are going to be back out in Iceland in July. So if I could get in contact with them and then piggyback, man, I just get multiple trips out there. And, obviously it would be unfortunate if I was within striking distance of you all and still can't see you. But I understand your situation's much different than anywhere else in the world. So I'm just happy to talk to you guys. I know you're glad to break up the monotony a bit. So.
For sure, yeah. And our travel thing, we just don't know. That's the thing. We've got no idea. Like, it could be good, it could be not, it could be.
I'm already checking flights.
As it stands at the moment, you need to provide decent evidence on why you need to leave the country.
Not that it's Britain.
Well, yeah, exactly. At the moment, yeah.
I'm emigrating. Bye.
Can we just for a second, accept the fact that at one point in your nation's history, you decided to conquer most of the known world in search of spices, and then you can't use a damn one of them in your cooking. Like, do you not see the irony?
Well, you gave that up.
Say again?
You don't need spices. You don't need spices. You just need salt.
And they say it's cooked with love. It's butter and garlic.
Yeah.
Well, you're not wrong there. You're speaking to my people. But
what we need to do is, we need now Haldor's working in immigration. Can we get some sort of get him to? And I don't mean do anything dodgy. I mean just sort out our residency for Iceland, and we can become Iceland residents. And then all we're doing is going home. It's not a problem.
If Icelandic weren't one of the hardest languages to learn, and you could pull it off somehow, I mean, I think that would be the way to go. But man, that's a stretch goal and a half.
Yeah.
As it stands, whenever I'm and I'm just going to pull this up for the sake of argument because this is fun to me. But let's say what's not incriminating. So if I'm on my phone, talking to Joe Rudd, and I hit my little button here on my iPhone, there it is. English, Icelandic. I don't know if you could see that.
Extra characters.
Yeah.
Well, we're all extra characters in our own rights, Bill. But I try every so often when I'm messaging Haldor to emphasize the correct words with their proper character, and still I think I know 12 Icelandic words, and one of them is skull.
Cheers.
The only chance we've got is that if Bill kind of keeps his head down a little bit, he looks a bit like Johan, so we might get him in.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I could get away with that maybe. Hang on, I'm Johan.
Audio, that joke didn't work.
He's been adventure biking. I see he's got a BMW. I want to say 7.
I don't remember what it is.
700 something. Like it's a bigger BMW motorcycle, and I know Iceland is not the smoothest topography. So he's got to be having a blast going over like big rocks and the coastline. So
Yeah.
haven't really talked to him much in I would say probably a year. I don't think I've really heard much from him because he's been doing his thing. But I hope everybody's dealing with COVID in their own particular way, and if it means like you're outdoors and you're kind of isolating yourself in a way, that's fine as long as you're healthy mentally. But
Yeah.
I think that's a big if right now.
yeah. My mental state has been spiking quite a bit in the last 24 hours because I just, as we were talking before we went live, the Bjj Fanatics tutorial went live, and I got to give it up to my friend Monte Wiley. He knew before I did that it went live, and then he messages me and he's like, "It's happening." I was like, "What is?" He sends me the message, and I'm like, "How the hell?" He saw the promo video a week ago that was saying coming soon. He was the first one to see that and send it to me. And then he's the first one to be like, "Oh, it's live." I'm like, do you have incriminating photos of Bernardo Faria on your phone? Like, how do you get this information so fast?
Special notifications turned on.
Yeah.
Have you got, so with the new DVD, for the guys that don't know, not DVD, I'm too old. For the guys that don't know, what's the update?
On Betamax.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's the update, and what's the BJJ Fanatics thing?
So BJJ Fanatics is a streaming service that works with some of the best talents in the world, and you can buy your tutorials a la carte. So if you want to look up, say, butterfly guard, and you just type in butterfly guard, you'll see who all has material either relative to passing it or using it. And when you see their names, you can just buy that person's material. And they have package deals, they have, daily deals, weekly deals, monthly deals, and the stable of just amazing talent on there is incredible. And I feel honored just being included in that. But Master Sauer just had his Mount Secrets and sorcery, as well as his the invert, which was his bottom side control, escapes and reversal stuff. And I helped him as an uke filming that in Boston back in November. And that launched, I think, was it 3 weeks ago now? 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, not too long ago.
Yeah.
I think the only reason why my stuff came out as quick as it did was it was pretty much ready to go. And when I filmed it back in December, we did it all on our end. And if you ask Mike Horahan, because he helped me film it, and Chris Schindler, who is the cyborg who's in the videos with me in this one. Quick aside. When we had a world conference at the headquarters in Herndon about 3 years ago, it'll be 3 years ago this May, I believe. We had a no-gi class on a Thursday night, and the seminars really kick off the Friday night of the weekend. But a bunch of black belts came into town early, so we had Mark Kukro, Ryan Lazares, Bill Jones, some of my favorite people, and then obviously when Jeff Curran comes to town, he brings Joey Deal and some other folks. And so that particular night, we had 40 some odd people in the no-gi class, but 15 of them were black belts. And so when the black belts all line up in the front and we're all facing the class, at the end of class, we rolled and everybody's having a great time. And I go, "All right, guys, how crazy is this? Look at all these black belts." Everyone's like, "Yeah, this is great." I go, "Show of hands, who all got to roll with a black belt tonight?" And I see a ton of hands go up. And I was like, actually, more importantly, how many people didn't get to roll with a black belt? And 3 people raised their hands. And so I can't hide my disdain. I'm like, guys, listen, don't worry about losing. It's not about how much you win. It's actually about how much you can get in there and experience the precision of somebody who's done it a ton of times. So if you're getting your butt kicked with a good armbar, it's way better than, having some mongoloid blue belt just rip your arm, because you're not going to learn the same things you're going to learn from somebody doing it the right way. So as I'm stating this, I go, and trust me, it's not like you're looking up at a bunch of serial killers. And I turn to Christian and I go, well, except for Chris. And then he just goes, And I'm like, you're not friggin' helping. So that's my favorite Chris Schindler story. He's a really great talent. When I showed up at the HQ in January of 8 years ago, he was one of the first guys there who I saw that was like super technical. He was I think a 1 or 2 stripe brown belt at the time. I was a brand new, or not brand new, but I was a no stripe purple belt, and Chris would wax me. And nowadays it's much, much closer. And I'm appreciative of the fact that he takes my classes and I take his, and I still look at him as like one of my original instructors. So anyway, that was a quick aside with regards to Chris Schindler, but Mike Horahan filmed it. We did it at the HQ back in December. Chris Schindler was my uke, and we filmed this tutorial, and it had, I don't know, 55 videos. So do you guys remember offhand how many the original Darce DVD had?
Like 62 or something like that.
Well, a deck of cards, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? So the original tutorial had 47 videos. I had a bunch more material that just didn't make it and ended up on the cutting room floor. The reason for that is I was trying to highlight enough basic stuff that people will see on the regular, and then I tried to put in a bunch of fancy stuff too to really wow the crowd. The great feedback I got, and when I say great, there's like an asterisk on it, right? Because constructive criticism can also like just melt your soul. So the constructive criticism I got was the camera work wasn't the greatest. There was video quality issues. There were sound quality issues. It didn't flow from move to move to move. And in some cases it was gi, then it was no gi, then it went back to the gi, and it jumped all over the place. And so if you just try to watch it like a movie, which you shouldn't, but if you just try to watch it straight through, the coherency wasn't there. The cadence for like when you're supposed to go to the next thing wasn't there. And that's all before you even talk about the technique. So then when people start, really ripping into specific things I was harping on a technique, and they go, but why didn't you mention this thing? And I'm looking at your feet, and I'm, but there was a weather balloon and some swamp gas, and, they're trying to figure it all out. And then I go, okay, well, kind of too late to do it now, but if I ever had the chance to redo it, this is what I would do. And I always had that in the back of my mind. So when I'm out to dinner in Boston with Bernardo Faria and Michael Zenga, the owners and faces of Bjj Fanatics, we're sitting there, James Finizio, the guy who got Pedro in the door for Bjj Fanatics. We're all out to dinner, Placido Santos. It came up that, I had a DVD, this older one. They're like, oh, we could just, if you already have it, we'll just buy it and take it from you. And I was like, I would change some things. And sure enough, I sent them the raw footage, and they were like, well, it's clear we like what you have to show, but the video is not what we want. I was like, sweet. That's the perfect excuse to now reshoot it. So we did. I think I scratched out 10 specific moves, updated a ton of the other content, really focusing on the details that I think that the criticism helped me to focus on as an instructor. That was 4 years ago. And then added some newer stuff as well. So I would say it's about 15 to 20% new material, like not seen on the other material. And then the majority of the things that you might have seen before are just a new, not a new coat of paint, but a fresher look with better explanation. And then the formatting of it is better. So as I just pull up the format here, when you go through, it's now broken into 4 distinct parts. And so on the first part, it's all setups from top position, and it goes through an entire sequence of top from standing to the guard, while passing the guard, side control, knee on belly, mount, back. And after you finish all that in no gi, you go to bottom positions. So now you're in bottom position, still no gi. So you're in the bottom of this, or you're defending the takedown, or now you're playing guard, or now you're playing from side control, you're playing from the knee on belly, you're playing from these things. And then you get into your gi dependent setups. And I put all the gi stuff at the end, figuring anybody who watches this tutorial will see everything you can do sans jacket, you can do with the jacket.
Yeah.
But the things that you put in the kimono can only be done there because there's a gi grip or a sleeve grip or a belt grip that you're using to highlight your mechanic.
Yeah.
So like a Toreando style bullfighter pass, when someone grabs your knees at the pants and tries to throw your legs to the side, they're not going to do that in no-gi, right? So having all that stuff towards the end and not necessarily putting less of it, but really fine-tuning the desire to say, okay, I don't want to wear the gi just because. I want to wear it when it's necessary, and people will just have to infer that if it's this much material in no-gi, it works whether you have a jacket or not. And if it's in the gi, you cannot do it in no-gi. And that was kind of the part that needed to be explained. And what I liked actually most about this was, I think the first 7 videos, let me pull it back up, but I think the first several videos at the very least are the most important. Not the introduction, but the evolution, the good, better, best grips, defining what lock side up means, the slide through or the roll, and troubleshooting with the gator roll. So those 5 videos, rather. I think those 5 videos are worth $77. If you're going to pay $100 for a private lesson on the Darce with me, I'm probably going to spend the entire hour on those 5 things with you. And then you're just going to find all the other mechanics and setups on your own. But to just kind of have a blueprint for success with those, 50 other videos of setups, man, it's incredible value. You're talking about what could take you 5 years to work on if you do it diligently, and then have an expert game on choking your friends with their own arm. Yeah, it's definitely good value. And then if you wait a month or so and it goes on the daily deals and you're getting it for like $40 or $50, it's almost like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But I'm super stoked. It was a good time up in Boston with Master Sauer. This yielded a good connection with Michael Zenga and Bernardo, and then I got my foot in the door here, and they have talked to me, and they already want me back in for some other stuff.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Any
And
insight on what that might be?
Say again?
Any insight on what you might cover?
Yeah.
Share it with the class, maybe.
All right. Listen, I love you guys. You're awesome. So I'll share this, and I'm going to also show you how maniacal I am, because we talked about my notes. All right. So if you can see the time on this.
Yes. 2 a.m.
Okay. Yeah. So 3:30 in the morning last night, I'm still fine-tuning this list of material.
Nice.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, my particular downside is that I have OCD. I'm an obsessive compulsive person, and it only comes out in very rare occasions. If I'm washing the dishes, I have to do specific things in a specific way. And most people would never notice because I don't have, these very elaborate rituals. It almost only comes down to my own personal bubble and my influence on my day-to-day, like how I fold my shirts, the color I put them in the closet and stuff like that. And when it comes to jiu-jitsu and my organization of my notes and things like that, it's even worse. So I spent a better part of the last few days, as Michael Zenga was talking to me, and he was like, man, I'd love to have you back in. And I was like, well, shit, we're in a very special place here now where I'm not going to show a better leg lock system than, say, Gordon Ryan, John Danaher, and that whole group. I'm not going to show, say, better wrestling than Henry Cejudo, because they also have they also have Wrestling Fanatics. So Fanatics is a brand, and they have their striking stuff and everything else too. So it's like, how do I compete with some of the best people in the world for that block of design space where I put my stuff in, and then you would have to look at it against, say, a bunch of others and be like, well, why this? So when you think about it, there's really not much undiscovered territory in the realm of grappling, and no one person has all of it. So even with the Darce stuff, it's like, man, I've got to compete with not only my good friend and a mentor to me, Jeff Glover, the one and only, but the Rotolo twins just came out with the Darce material. There's and I can't believe I'm blanking on the name right now, but there's a European who just came out with a tutorial on the Brabo, and it's all in the gi. God, I want to look it up, but
I saw it the other day as well. I can't remember who it was.
Since I have it here, Bucolet, Dinu. Yeah, and so Leo Vieira's got something, and so it's like, how do you compare when it's like finding the Darce choke from everywhere, Joel Bowie, the Darce killer, which is funny, Malachi Friedman, he put out a DVD on how to beat it, and we'll see. Mine's a little different, right? So the reason why I feel like I can still put my name in that hat is because I don't go to the necktie, the palm to palm grip. I do a pulling mechanic with 2 hooks, and I also set it up with twists and turns and other little mechanics where I use my chest and my body more than my arms, which I think makes it more user friendly to people that aren't extremely long limbed or people that are not swole, so you get a good mix. But to not speak too much more and be long-winded on the answer, yes, I have something, and I think the new design space is going to be on more of a overarching idea that can't get a name than something that is a move from a bunch of positions. Maybe it's a bunch of little things that all add up. So the tutorial that I've been designing over the last few days with my repertoire of moves cycling through my head is deconstructing defense. How to neutralize frames and hooks from all positions, top, bottom, side, through, guard, knee shields, this, that. It's incredible how much stuff I've accumulated through the years. And I was like, man, if I just put this into a core recipe of what you're looking for and how you're either engaging, disconnecting, or trapping, and then you move around or through those obstacles, and then I give the examples behind it, people will be like, oh, well, now I have more of an idea of what happens when I encounter this level of resistance. And I think that's the way to go, rather than just, shake a tree hard enough, a move falls out, and you go, okay, now how can I look at this move from 5 different ways?
Yeah. It's maybe a little bit more meta in a way, isn't it? It's kind of connecting things sideways.
Correct. And I don't mind lateral movement in design because that allows the user to then be a generalist and they can specialize how they see fit. Because Pete, you might be triangles, Robin, you might be arm locks, and Bill, you might be chokes, and that's fine. But if you all started here, you can then, generalize before specializing. And I'm just trying to build that better baseline for folks.
We've said this before, haven't we, Pete, about the strength training thing, the breadth of the base of the pyramid, the wider you make that, the higher the peak can be.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. So yeah, that's what I'm currently thinking about, and I have to boil it down to the mechanics I want to show and what I think are going to be, the freshest take, the 2021 version of a move. And then I've also got to script it out because I don't think most people realize it's not like I put on my suit and tie, I go to the office, and then I just sit behind the keyboard and hit my monotonous motion through doing jiu-jitsu. I have to really go and think about every single move and what I would say, script all of that out and write it down, and then practice and rehearse because I can do the move all day, but if I had to teach it, it's a completely different animal when I have to, assign either a geometric shape, a cardinal direction, or, some other kind of verbal cue or visual cue to let someone who's watching it at home on their device pick up the exact detail I want them to pick up. It's tough.
Yeah.
Get that. How long roughly does it take you to sort of actually film the stuff? Compared, if it comes down to like an hour worth of content, how many hours are you in the studio?
So
That's after it's planned, of course.
This might sound unrealistic, but Mike Horahan can verify, and so could Chris Schindler. This entire last DVD, I think, ended up being between an hour and a half and 2 hours of solid solid video. No fluff, no long-winded speeches, just in and out. And we filmed the whole thing in under 5 hours, and we only did one retake.
Wow.
Yeah. And the retake was because I had to cough. And
you get that one.
And you know what's funny is it was like so late in the day that even Mike was like, he hit the camera, he looks at me and he goes, "That's our first retake." And he's like almost confused. And once again, I need to highlight the fact that this is mostly explored territory, right? It's a material that I'm really familiar with. I had filmed a lot of it in the past, but now I'm just highlighting very specific portions of these things that I'm polished, that are polished now, and trying to explain them again. And then even with the new stuff, a lot of the newer stuff, like right before COVID hit, I was showing it at seminars, so I had practiced the delivery on that. So it's kind of like a greatest hits. I'm not gonna fail. It's I don't know. You pick a national song that comes on at the pub, and then all of a sudden everyone breaks out in the song. You're not going to forget those lyrics, even if it's been a year since you heard it. So I was very fortunate in that it was so prepared that we could go in and do it like that. If it's this new stuff, man, it might take 2 days. It might take a 6-hour session on one day and a 6-hour session on the next, because with Master Sauer, you know it as well as I do, his moves are super polished. But just getting them into the format and remembering a string of how to tie it all together, there was so much downtime in between every individual take that for every, I would say, minute to 4 minutes of filming, there was probably 20 minutes of let's rep it out, let's get the angles and look at the camera and see what we want to do, and then you set it up.
Yeah, sure.
So the 16th president of the U.S., Abraham Lincoln, he had this very famous quote where he said, "If I had 6 hours," go ahead. Up. He doesn't want to miss the quote.
Oh, I've got it on a mug.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Is it? I don't know if you can see.
Hold on.
There we go. Yeah.
Let me see here. I don't know why yours isn't.
I don't know why mine isn't bigger. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah, give me 6 hours to chop a tree. I'll spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. Yep, exactly. Perfect. Yeah, and I still adhere to that. I think preparedness is wonderful, and just going in and having things in a row makes everything simpler. So if I really practice this stuff, I think I can get it down to maybe a long 10-hour day as opposed to like 2 8-hour days or 2 6-hour days. But we'll see. It's a process. And Master Sauer, he was in Boston for 2.5 days to film those 2 things, and he knows his stuff. And it was still like the one day was solid go, and then the first day and a half were solid go, and then the last day we were like, oh, we have all this extra time, maybe we can do something else. And we thought we could do the mount tutorial stuff because he had done his mount, the Path to Black Belt series where he did brown belt, mastering the mount. That's like a 20-year-old video. How much stuff has he changed in like 20 years? So we got to the very first video on the old DVD, which was Killing the Grapevines, and we never did it. we put the DVD in, we watched his first scene, and we were going to go scene for scene, and he was like, I don't do that anymore. And we just chucked it and did all new stuff, and it's brilliant. And that's the kind of stuff that is, I'm grateful that I was at ground zero for that, because there are going to be people that watch the new thing, or they own the old one and they're like, cool, well, I guess I don't need this. No, you need it. You need it like today, because it's the new and evolved version of it. So just going back to my thing, there's a reason why the original one was bringing back the Brabo, and now this one is the Brabo Darce Evolution. It's like, what is it? What isn't it? I think what killed me on my first set of DVD sales was a lot of people are like, I don't know what a Brabo is. I don't want to learn what a Brabo is. Man, can you teach me how to Darce? And it's like, freaking thing. But nomenclature does matter. And so if people see where something comes from and what it is, and then they kind of get that in between, and then they can forecast where it's going to be in like 5 more years, now you have something that's a little bit more digestible as a student. And I'm all about getting that reach now. I want more people to see it, and I want more people to get good at it, so that it's not, and this isn't a dig at Joe Rogan, but it is. And he'll call everything a Darce. And I understand he's a black belt in 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu under Rudy Bravo, and he knows his stuff. I also understand that he's sitting ringside and either looking through like a teleprompter, or he's kind of looking across a mat, and so he doesn't get the best visual on the movement. So it's not really blaming him, but there's a strict difference between an anaconda choke and a Darce choke versus an arm in guillotine versus an arm triangle versus an inverted arm triangle. And if you don't know the difference, you're just going to get it all muddled, and you're going to forget where pressures go, and if it's with your chest or with your elbow. Or so I'm trying to demystify the confusion.
Sounds good. And if people haven't already had the first DVD, which we've got, they definitely need to go and get this and check it out. Because I mean, I haven't been through more than, it's a bit like you were saying, I haven't been through more than kind of like the first 5-6 moves, and just still trying to work on getting that right. And that here, and then doing it with someone else and going, okay, tell me how this feels, and then getting them to do it to me, and then and then one of our guys, Sean, has particularly taken it on, hasn't he? Taken it to heart, and he's literally with the first 3 movements become a killer with it, just with the first 3 movements. So it's worth the money just for the first first 5 bits.
And that's kind of where my head is at. If people have a short attention span, or you just don't have the ability to go through that deep dive on all of it, if you get through the first 5, it should be enough to feed you. And I want that effect. I want people to be like, cool, I have this, it will serve me well, and I'm sitting on a gold mine whenever I want to get to it. And the rest is just there in your back pocket. Now, my good friend Drew Foster, who's from the Carolinas, he's like my Brabo brother, my Darce dude. He's really big into it, and he got the first one. And actually, when I was talking to you guys on the Lockdown Chronicles the first time, I had said the first DVD was a trash fire in terms of production. I filmed it 3 separate times before it made it to the market. And he was actually the original Uke in the first filming, and then the material got corrupted, files got lost. It was a shit show. So, he's like ride or die with me on whether this material works, and he's big on Reddit, and he's in all the sub forums and talking about it. He's like, I don't know if you guys are big into like 1990s American rap music, but he's like the hype man for my Public Enemy group. He was Flava Flav to my Public Enemy,
Nice.
So
big watch, big clock.
Hell yeah, you got it. So
I did say clock, by the way.
Yeah. And so, there are people out there that are going to go deep into it, and he's one of them. There's a ton of others, and I could see it really helping, 5% of the people who buy it that are just going to be that specialism. Whereas I think 95% of people are just going to be like, holy crap, I just got a new, like maybe 1 or 2 good tricks out of it, and that's good enough for them. I can't tell you how many arm bars I've learned through the years, and I use 3, and that's good. That's good for me. Yeah. I'm really excited for the future of jiu-jitsu. I think where the leg lock game is right now, it's incredible to watch it finally come up to a level that it should have been at for years, and how much better it's becoming because these specialists are popping up everywhere, and I'm grateful for it. I do wish that there was more universal nomenclature so that we're not all getting confused. Why are we going to use a Japanese term to describe our Brazilian jiu-jitsu sport in English? It's like, I love to use words I don't understand. It makes me sound more ashigarami.
Well, exactly. I was just about to say exactly that. It's just to make it sound more mystical, isn't it? And it's to create this, almost intentional confusion around it.
Why did you guys decide on jiu-jitsu and not Tang Sudo?
I could say jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I'm dyslexic. There's no way I'm spelling Tang Sudo.
Why not karate? Why not kung fu?
For me, I just didn't want to. It was no strikes, so it was grappling, and I, from what I'd read, it was more of a case of most fights will end up on the ground. So that's what I wanted to try and understand more.
Okay, I'm not going to turn it to Socrates, but why not wrestling?
Wrestling's not big over here. It's just doesn't really exist.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to downplay jiu-jitsu in the UK, but compared to the rest of Europe, I don't think jiu-jitsu is as big in the UK as it could be in other areas.
I'll give you a funny story. So I grew up in the 80s, and when we think of wrestling, we think of two characters. One was Giant Haystacks and the other was Big Daddy. And it will never, ever, leave my mind. So no, whenever you say wrestling, it's just a no-no.
All right. So
Sunday afternoon, swinging handbags is wrestling. And it's worse than the WWE, so no.
Okay. So
I think you're missing his question a little bit, Bill.
Yeah, but the point.
But it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. So wrestling, for us in the UK, wrestling, there isn't the sport of wrestling. Real ACA wrestling. It's the fiction of the WWE. And if you're old enough, like I am, you remember the dodgy shows on the Sunday afternoon, on the TV, which was Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy. So it's just a cultural thing.
But until what, 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, martial arts in the UK was dominated by Olympic judo and
karate.
Okay. So let's use judo. Why not judo?
I've done it. Got the black belt. No, I trained judo for the longest time when I was a little kid.
But to Bill, why not judo? Why jiu-jitsu?
Again, just the growing up thing. I don't know. Judo it's like an old thing rather than jiu-jitsu seemed a little bit new and exciting.
Okay.
Plus, a friend was training jiu-jitsu, and it was that go along with the friend and give it a go. And I've never looked back.
Listen, there's no judgment here. I'm just trying to dig because I think at some point or another, all of us have either gone to fisticuffs in school or, we've been in a situation where we tussle with a friend, even if it's friendly in the living room. And at one point you realize the stuff you see in the movies or the stuff you saw in cartoons doesn't work. And when you got to your first jiu-jitsu class, that efficiency smacks you in the face like a golden brick. And next thing you know, you're like, oh crap, this is legit. And I don't ever want to lose that. And I think the problem that we have is sometimes we think a thing is as good as it'll ever get. But, I can't remember if I said this the last time, but if the Model T that was invented by Ford, in the early 1900s were perfect, we'd still be driving it. Instead, we've got cyber trucks coming out by Tesla in the next year. And, I'm glad I've got my ticket to reserve one. And I want to be in a cool truck that can run through walls. Not that I'm going to. But, it's that efficiency. We know the wheel is a good shape. We want to transport things on the wheel, but we can definitely improve the design.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu is still evolving. And I think the bigger problem with judo, karate, and a lot of other martial arts is they're so strict on adherence to the way that things were taught 100 years ago. And you have to do this move this way. And this is the textbook on all things judo. And when you introduce something new, they ban it. So like high caliber wrestlers started getting into judo and doing fireman's carries and single legs and double leg takedowns. And next thing you know, they're like, hey, you cannot touch the legs with your hands. You cannot do this. You know, everything has its place. I respect judo and I do dabble from time to time. And I can, if you said, you know, Oichigari and this and Kataguruma, like I mentioned, the fireman's carry, like I know the movements, Kani Basami, you know, flying leg scissor takedown. I understand the things that I do and how they came from these roots. But there's better ways of doing them now. And if you pigeonhole yourself into, no, you can only adhere to the Kodokan scripted way of doing it, you're going to end up as a time capsule. Those things were big in the States in the 80s. Like your school class would get together and you'd put a bunch of knickknacks in this little thing. You'd bury it in the ground. You'd come back 10, 20 years later, dig it up and look at how stupid you were. And that's
now we've got Facebook instead.
Yeah, the ultimate time capsule. Yeah, I go on Facebook and it's like 14 years ago, you were pole dancing for money, Dave. Great.
Changes,
I don't regret it. So there's a lot to be desired in terms of like improving for the right reasons, like improving for efficiency versus I'm going to change something to look cool. Jiu-jitsu still has to be efficient. That's why we all got into it, and that's why we love it. Mm. And if you're just passing a gimmick, no one's going to care. They'll see right through that bullshit in a second. So I think my material is going to stand up against the other folks in that pantheon of people who have shared their material, because it's not different for different sake. It's different because it's changed. It's something that can work for any body type. And the other stuff isn't bad, you know. I'm not going to discount Glover, man. Like that's the gold standard for the Darce material. But the same reason, like when he came to Bellingham BJJ, my school in Washington, when I co-ran it with Jeff Shaw, when he came out to Bellingham and he was fielding questions, he straight up was like, okay, I taught an entire seminar on deep half guard. Anybody have any questions? So people started asking some half guard questions. And he's like, all right, now I'm going to open it up for any questions you want not related to deep half. Then he looks at me, then he looks back at the crowd and he's like, aside from the Darce. And it's like, my hero is telling my, you know, people from the entire like Pacific Northwest of the States and Canada who came to that seminar. And he's saying it in front of this large audience that he has enough respect for the way I do it to not try to like step on my toes, because he understands like there are going to be students there that he might say something to that will completely take his way as scripture, even if I'm the one who's going to ultimately like lead them along the path. Yeah. And there might be a slight difference or deviation. So, you know, say what you want about Jeff as like a personality, man, the guy is full of personality, but he knows so much about the grappling game and he just feels it and he knows it. And he also understands like his way isn't the only way. So, yeah, I'm really grateful that the vibe is we can all do our own way and it'll work for a large group of people. With regards to you guys, like, what are you excited about working on when lockdown lifts? What are you guys going to do first?
Touch each other.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm easy. You choke me, do what you want to me, but as long as we can touch each other, that would be great.
Yeah. So are you using grappling dummies right now? Like, how does it work when you're teaching these classes? Are you just
Bill?
My God.
We've all got
plates. I know my plates.
We've all got like different situations that we're in, aren't we? So Robin obviously and Claire are doing like when they're when Robin's teaching class, he's got Claire helping out as the body and demonstrating and being the body. If I'm teaching like with the kids, I haven't got anyone, so I'm using a grappling dummy. Sad music. And Billy's helping me with the kids class as well, because he's got his two boys who are the
Yeah, I'm just constantly feeding my eldest because he's still turning food into height instead of girth. So yeah, I keep feeding him in the hope that he'll be big enough for me to train harder and faster with. He's getting there.
Question on that: how much did he grow since COVID hit your area? So how big was he a year ago?
I could check, but he's only, well, what we know, he's 10 years old. So he was about 5 foot a year ago. He's nearly as tall as his mum. No, his mum's 5'4", so he's about 5 foot at the moment. He was 2-3 inches shorter than that since COVID.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot in a year. Wow, awesome.
It's really crazy as well because I see them on camera. I see all the kids on camera, and then when we get these little breaks where we can see them back in face to face again,
socially distanced face to face.
Yeah, socially distanced face to face. The kids' class walk in, and I'm like, "When did you lot turn into teenagers?"
You?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say this, but he's getting a lot more resilient. But on Thursday's class, when Pete wasn't watching, we were properly like messing around, sparring on the floor, and I put him in side control, and I did full side control, and he was laying there and going, "I'm not tapping," and I actually moved. I got bored.
I mean, Bill says I wasn't watching, but
Yeah, Pete was there laughing. "Aaron, do this. Aaron, do that."
Pete was taking bets on Facebook at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not going to be long before they're terrorizing me, and that's the truth.
Right. You know what? For me, it's going to be go back through all the fundamentals again. Go back right to blue.
Start back at lesson 1, right?
Yeah, warm up with that, and let's get going with that again before I even think about doing anything else. I think.
Well, we've had this conversation quite a few times, Pete, and this was kind of without COVID as well, wasn't it? We just do the basics over and over again.
Yeah.
Our games are particularly non-flashy.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain level of flash in doing the basics well.
I try.
If I do like the knee drive from the guard pass, like I break the guard from the knees. You had me in your closed guard. I break it, and I do that cleanly, and I just do it with a hip turn versus like my elbows or my hands or anything like that.
Yep,
that looks beautiful.
Yeah,
and then
that's what I'm aiming for. Yeah,
and then if I then just kind of rock my back leg in as I move my front leg forward, and my whole body just moves like the C, and then I staple the leg, put pressure down, windshield wiper my feet, keep the hooks active. That's white to blue curriculum. But man, if you do it well, people are going to notice.
Yeah.
So, say what you will. I think there's a level of elegance in just mastery of the basics.
That's what I'm trying for.
Good. Keep at it. That's all you can hope for. Me too.
But as you said earlier, like there's that kind of baseline, and all of us, obviously including yourself, but particularly us three, that's kind of what we've done loads of. But each one of us has got a slightly different peak,
Yeah, and that's fine. But water will find its lowest point. So if one of you has a really big discrepancy, the other two should see it immediately.
Yeah. But again, Pete and I said that before because we spent so much time training together that everything that he does and the thing I do is because of the other one.
That makes sense.
So he gets good at something, I have to get good at defending it. He then gets good at defending that, or moving on from that. It's like that yin and yang kind of thing.
Did I on the last chat talk about a black belt by the name of John Reeves?
Not that I remember.
Okay, so John Reeves came up with me, and when I came to when I got out of the military and I moved to Northern Virginia, I went to Professor Sauer's, and one of the first guys I met was this guy John Reeves, and he was same rank as me at the time, purple belt. He's I think a year older than me, or same age, relatively the same body dimensions and weight. My arms are slightly longer because I'm built like an orangutan, but a really good training partner for me because skill level, age, body weight, you got it, right? Except I favored chokes and leg locks, and he favored arm locks. And man, oh man, did his leg locks and his chokes get good, and man, oh man, did my arm locks improve. And it was awesome because as I'm, hitting the things I'm good at, he's improving in those areas and his defense gets better. And then I have to improve even more. And conversely, I had to get really savvy with arm locks. I think thanks to John, most of my arm lock losses kind of cumulatively stopped around 2014 because he was just arm locking me savagely every day for, years. And then after that, it's like, well, unless somebody else is going to have something that's superior to what I'm dealing with every day from this killer, at least as I'm going through the ranks, purple, brown, then black, it's not going to really scare me. I have that sensitivity. So you guys are in a very good situation where you have each other to work with and you have different skills. So it's a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely works well. Definitely works well. I think what I've been conscious of more of the last couple of years as well is just that we're not old by any stretch of the imagination. Well, they're not. I might be. And so as well, when we go back, we talked about this about like when we first go back is just not just for us, but for everyone else is like taking it really slow so that people don't get hurt because they're going to be so crazy to get back on the mat and so excited to roll with each other that we're like, how do we feed this back in slowly?
We take it in somehow.
Without the people that are left in the club breaking each other on the first night.
Well, in terms of direction, you can at least set a standard for, say, all right, so first night back, we're going to do a lot of positional sparring where we have a scripted beginning and a scripted end.
Yeah.
And when you take the variance out, people will still feel like they worked. There's still that sense of achievement and accomplishment rather, and the physicality that you were talking about, Robin, where you actually get to engage. But you can mitigate some of the risk of like pulled muscles and other things that would happen if people just try to go like hit the ground running. Maybe you do that for a few weeks and people will be grateful just for anything at that point. So I don't think it's going to matter. When I'm down here in the basement and I'm doing my my little small group classes, we hardly ever have more than 2 people rolling at a time. And when they do, it's minute, maybe 2. And if we see things kind of getting heated up, granted, it's three black belts, 2 purple belts, and a 2 blue belts. So it's not like people don't know what they're doing. We're not teaching new practitioners how to grapple. It's a really nice environment. We can kind of get out of the way. We have some people spectating, making sure no one's running out of bounds, and if things start getting heated, like I said, we just go, hey man, you shouldn't go there. Call them out on it. It's big boy rules. They get it. And, no one wants to see me come out of retirement. So they're very happy to see me kind of at like, 40%, like just having fun.
We're kind of worried about the, obviously it might not have been such a problem over there for you guys, but we're also worried about, well, worried is the wrong word, but how we get over that thing of people are going to find it really weird to have physical contact again.
Yeah.
After not having a year, you're going to get, and again, we can just ease people in, but the idea of literally, joking aside, touching each other after a year of, no, you stand 2 meters away,
Bear in mind, Dave, that like if in the UK at the moment, you're like, I'm in theory, allowed to touch the people in my household. That's it. I'm not supposed to even hug my parents. I don't anyway, because I'm a bit strange like that. But I'd like to be able to, if I wanted to.
Yeah, still have the choice, right?
Yeah, exactly. I still wouldn't, but well. So yeah, people are only like, say you live in a household of 5, maybe 4. 3 other people. That's all you've had contact with in the last year.
That's wild.
Yeah. Pete lives with his girlfriend. That's 1. That's I think that's something to come back from.
So let me ask, how is the shopping situation if you needed groceries?
They're open. You're supposed to wear masks. They're supposed to keep a rough head count of how many people in the shop at different points in proceedings. They used to kind of have you queue outside, and you'd be queuing at one point for like an hour outside to get in. But that was only quite short-lived, relatively. But you're supposed to stay away from each other. You're supposed to have your social distancing. They're supposed to have one-way systems, but they've all seemed to take those out. But you're not supposed to get close to people. You know,
people are.
But bear in mind, Dave, only essential shops are currently open.
Yeah. People have been affected by it. You know, you walk into a shop where there's already people there, and just opening the door and you appearing, they're like backing away. You know, it's a strange one. But I'm going to break down all those barriers by just going and hugging everyone.
And then you're going to be like,
yeah.
So you all remember when I was in Iceland, I brought my girlfriend Madeline, and her grandfather just passed away from COVID. He had such a fast turnaround from when he got it to when his oxygen saturation went super low, and then we got the call that he was moved to hospice, and then within 12 hours of that, he passed. And it's hard for me as someone who went through it, had such mild symptoms, didn't even take anything other than like we have like the phone in doctor service where you basically like, you know, open your mouth for the camera and like you talk to your doctor and then they prescribe you something if they need it, or they send you to the hospital. But, you know, I did the doc in the box, and all they did was pre-COVID, when no one knew what it was, he thought I had like a upper respiratory infection or possibly pneumonia with a cough. And so he prescribed me antibiotics. That's not how you do this, you know, like, but at that time, you know, I had the cough, I had some weird symptoms. And so I got kind of misdiagnosed, but I came through it. I'm also at that time, 37 when that happened. And so fit, not in the age group that's at most risk, don't have any pre-existing medical conditions that would make it harder for me. And so I bounced through it, no problem. And then, you know, Madeline's grandfather, 90-year-old man, not that he was in bad shape, but he's just not fit. And so it's weird how, to me, there are still people that are denying it and think in the States like, it's some conspiracy theory. And I don't want to get political with you all about what's happening here, but man, you guys probably have a good laugh when we hit stop on this. There are so many things that I just want to like throttle people and like choke them for real, because there are tournaments going on in the States right now, grappling tournaments. And it's like reprehensible to think that there are folks who are just like in such denial that they're willing to get together and jeopardize, even if you are a physically fit competitor and you're like, well, I'll bounce back. Well, now you're a carrier and you might just kill somebody else's grandpa. Like where Madeline's grandparents was assisted living. They didn't leave. That means somebody brought it in.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's that whole like adage, guns don't kill people, people kill people. You can't think of the device as dangerous. And this is a hot topic in the States too, because everyone's all like, oh, don't take my guns. Like, what will I be without my guns? It's like, you'll still be a person that can probably pick up a rock and kill somebody. But, you know,
just a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just going to have to really mean it.
Which also, now that I said that, makes me think, if guns don't kill people, people kill people, then does that mean that toasters don't toast?
No, people toast.
But, you know, like there are tournaments happening in the States. I've got a lot of problems with it. I don't think that, you know, if you want to train like a small group of people and you know that the same group of people are in your, you know, neighborhood and they're working from home and they have limited contact and everyone's gone through their, you know, bi-weekly whatever swabs or whatever nasal test, or, you know, you're all being practical and smart about it. You're mitigating the risk and you want to get together like I'm doing here in my basement, you know, do it. I see nothing wrong with that if it's a bunch of intelligent people who are doing the right things and getting together. now control 300 people in a building. Do that. You show me a time in history where you can make sure that there is no variance across 100 people, and I'll call bullshit. So the fact that there are tournaments in the States is really upsetting, but I don't want people to stop doing jujitsu either. It's like, man, you can do what you can, whether it's with a girlfriend or, you know, your kids or whoever, just keep doing it, but be smart about it. Have a small group, people you trust, people who are either tested or, you know, through proximity that you're safe, and do it. I'm not going to tell people not to wear a mask when they train, or if you're cohabitating with somebody or you're with the same group all the time and you know you're not like going out to movie theaters with no mask on, you know, there's no way to do it, you're probably fine. But it's these deniers who don't wear the masks everywhere they go until they get yelled at and kicked out of the store, and then they're a YouTube video. They're ruining it for everybody. It's like, man, do you guys remember when it was like, hey, for 1 month, we're just all going to stay inside? 1 month. It's been a year. It's wild. It's wild.
It's crazy. And yeah, and I think I'm, since having it, I think, because I got it as well, I think I'm even more, you know, I'm probably just as cautious or more cautious. And I'd been really cautious, and I just happened to get really unlucky in that I think I caught it in a shop posting a package, you know, and I think I was just in there, you know, too long, and someone had it, and I just happened to get it because I haven't really been anywhere else. But I'm, you know, again, like you're saying, just behaving responsibly. So I you know, as soon as I knew or had a proper inkling, I isolated, and for as far as I know, I didn't, you know, pass it on to anyone else, and we broke the chain. And all right, both of us were sick, and we weren't great, and we were pretty ill for a few, you know, for a week or two. But yeah, like you say, it's just that responsible behaviour and keeping your circle small. And
I think over here though, it might be a little bit different to the States, because obviously the way you're talking about it, it kind of makes sense, Dave. You know, it's kind of like, it is a little bit of personal responsibility. It's making sure you do the right thing. You know, take, you know, a little bit of, when there's a little bit of wiggle room on the edge, you make your own choices. Over here, to me at least, it does feel a little bit like they're infantilizing, if I can even say the word, people. You know,
I get
like the fact that you're not supposed to hug your parents, that sort of thing. It's almost like a little bit too much, you know.
Do you, when you do a shop, do you provide your own bags?
Yeah, generally. Because I click and collect, because I can't bother to walk around the shop. Okay. They get brand new ones and they come and do them.
I'm just trying to figure out, because it's like there's a famous Frenchman who's the father of forensics. His name was Locard, and he ended up making a rule that was called Locard's principle.
Yeah.
And it goes, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's like every contact leaves its trace. So as a child growing up with CSI, the show, Crime Scene Investigations, you know, I grew up and I thought that I was going to go into criminal justice. And so when I went to college, my initial degree program at the university was criminal justice. And I could have sworn as a young 18-year-old man that I was just going to walk in on crime scenes and there would just be semen everywhere. Like,
get the black light out.
The way the way these shows are described, you just think it's going to be like blood and semen just everywhere, right?
Is it not?
My house. But the issue really comes down to, you know, there's going to be, you know, fluid trace, this kind of trace, that kind of trace, hair follicles. There's tons of crap everywhere. Now, the original data that was out on COVID was like one cough can travel like 3 shopping aisles, and it's like, okay, with favorable wind conditions, you can putt from the rough and make it to the green. You know, like you're talking about like this small speck of a chance of something.
Yep.
You can't mitigate all risk.
No.
Did you get out of bed this morning? Guess what? Even if you didn't, you could still die. So there's a level of still taking something seriously without overreacting. And I think that the bigger problem is some people overreact to a reaction and then they don't even realize they're the problem. So it's like, hey, wear a mask when you go outside. How dare you get involved in my rights and this and that? It's like, man, just wear a freaking mask. Don't hug your grandparents. Oh, no, you're saying like that's, like there's levels to it. And I wish I could say that it's a common sense thing, but it's not.
I guess there's a lack of that. That's the problem.
Yeah. And man, I don't want to talk about too many current events, but are you guys keeping track with the Robinhood app and that whole debacle?
Ish.
Okay. So I'm going to mention my my adopted little brother for a second, and if he watches this, he'll forgive me in like 10 years. But 2 nights ago, he sends me a message for the first time in like a month, and it's just, hey, here's my coupon code to Robinhood app. If you sign up, we both get 1 free stock of a random type and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Dan, thanks. I'm going to bed. It's 1 a.m. Like, and I just kind of like laugh it off. He was one of the few that got in the craze on like on the GameStop trades really early. And so my little brother is probably going to be a big winner on this, and good for him. Like he's been kind of rubbing it in over the last like 24, 36 hours that I didn't act when I could have at 1 a.m. when he sent me that link. And I'm like, yeah, there's opportunity cost, but then there's also, taking a little bit more responsibility and saying, do I want to throw away my money on a potential bet versus do I really want to make sure I push my agenda on my tutorial that I know I put the hard work in and that's mine. Like I'm not rolling the die or putting the ball in the roulette wheel. I'm taking a little bit more ownership of my action as opposed to, yeah, I heard some good things on the interwebs. Let me follow suit with a bunch of other knuckleheads and, get involved in this. And I say knuckleheads and I should take it back. Good on those folks that made their money. Do it again. Do it 3 times. Make me feel like this wasn't just some crazy trend, right? But it's weird how those false positives give confidence to the wrong folk. And this is classic white belt error. They open the guard with their elbows 1 time on another white belt, and they think that's how it should always be done. And then when you tell them not to because, some blue or purple belt's going to make them pay for it, and then they keep doing it, and then they pay for it, and then they go, huh, that's weird. But now they have so many reps doing it wrong that it's going to take too long to correct.
Yeah.
They have so many false positives. Well, at what point did somebody have bad science early and corrupt somebody's idea of what we should be looking out for? And those people freaked out. Then you have somebody who goes out without a mask 1 time, doesn't get deathly sick and put on a ventilator, and now they're just a denier. They're like, well, it can't possibly happen. It didn't happen in this 1 time. Man, it's looking at the entire picture saying, is it worth the risk? Do I want to go ahead and do this? What kind of person am I if I do? And just being a freaking adult. But it's like, man, that's such a hard ask.
Seems to be.
Yeah. But, just changing gears slightly. Not talking about like what you're going to do when bans and restrictions and stuff lift. What non-jiu-jitsu related things are you guys up to kind of keep sanity?
When I found something, I'll let you know.
Rowing.
Oh yeah, Bill's rowing. I'm
Signed up to a Land's End to John O'Groats distance challenge, and I'm rowing until I've got it done.
Bill, you've got to give Dave some context on what Land's End to John O'Groats is.
Yeah, distance. So south-west of the UK, furthest point to the furthest northeast. So just over 1,000 miles.
And split over how much time?
I've signed up to do it within a year, but I've done 9% in January. So it's going to take 10 months.
About a year.
10 months nearly.
Wow. That's incredible, Bill. What's your recovery like? Like how often a day do you do it? What do you do for like building yourself back up when you feel broken down. And then, I mean, not to jinx it, but you're doing physical contact. So there's going to be a potential for failure just on the basis that the human body can only endure so much. Like, what's your level of preparedness going into this challenge? And what are you doing to kind of handle it right now?
There was no preparedness going in. It was just something to keep me moving and to stay sane. But no, it started slow. So it was just like 5K rows, so 20, 24-minute rows. But every time I get on now, which is every other day, it's 45, 48 minutes. Every now and again, I'll do a little bit longer just to see what that feels like. And yeah, it's not easy, but it's strange actually, because all of the time that I'm rowing, and that is quite a long time just to be going backwards and forwards on the spot, I'm thinking this is going to be good for my like open hand grips, you know, just in the collar and little things like that as I'm doing it. And I'm thinking, yeah, all the more rowing I'm doing, I'm going to get smaller, so I'm going to be more, you know, like hip escapes and things, you know. So even though I'm doing something completely different, for me, there's still that element of it's going to make me better for when I do get back on the mats, and I'm going to have a lot more cardio. I'm going to be fitter. I'm going to be, you know, stronger. So yeah.
Man, that's impressive. And so you started this month, you're 9%, you're doing it every other day. You're on track to finish in 10 months. What is the, I guess it's just the accomplishment of knowing you did it, this thing. There's no actual physical award.
No, you get a little medal that comes through the post once you're done.
That's pretty legit.
Yeah. They plant a few trees for you along the way. But no, it's, for me, it's just that without that, if I have a bad day, I wouldn't get on the rowing machine. So with that little goal, it just keeps me going, keeps me motivated.
Well, let me share this, and this is a funny story and segue. The only thing I've gotten in the mail recently in terms of medals or accomplishments, I don't know if you'll be able to see this well, but this fake belt here, it's from the Lemons Rally. So now let me explain. A lemon, I don't know if you use the same vernacular, but we're describing like a shitty car.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the Le Mans Rally is a famous, you know, cross-country adventure that's for technical drivers and co-pilots. And, you know, it's arduous and you need really good equipment. This is not any of that. Like, anybody can sign up, and your car has to be worth a total value of less than $800. So you take a shitty car and you go to Chicago, Illinois, like Jeff Curran spot in the middle of America, and you go on what's a historic route called Route 66, and you've probably seen it in movies, whatever. But you go south through Illinois, hit Missouri, keep going till you hit Oklahoma, then you hit the top of Texas, then you start going west, and now you're going all the way through to let's see, top of Texas, then New Mexico, New Mexico, Arizona, then California, then you hit the Pacific Ocean, and it's 2,700 miles, and you do it in 6 days. And along the way, you have anywhere from, you know, I think it's either 10 to 12 stops a day, and you have to get out of your car and take a picture of this landmark to show that you hit your waypoints. And you have now accomplished the Lemons Rally if your car makes it to the finish line. And the end goal is to get to the Santa Monica Pier in California, park your car in their parking lot, take the keys to the car, throw the keys in the ocean, leave your shitty car, and get on a flight and come home. And teams do this. There were 17 teams that did this from October 25th through to October 31st, and it ended on Halloween. The car that I ended up driving, and I am not embarrassed to say this in the slightest, was a beat up Subaru Outback that we decided that we were going to dress up, German, my buddy and I, we were going to dress up and we were going to do it. And I don't know if this will come out well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like the Ghostbusters, yeah.
Oh, it is. It totally is. Complete with a child's stuffed green donkey that we actually put a ball gag on because, you know, we got to make it adult. We were horrible. We were absolutely horrible. So we did this entire rally in this beat up Subaru Outback. And, you know, I've got a million stories from that trip, but we get through it and they rate you based on either how many waypoints you hit, how many bonus waypoints you hit. You get style points based on how crappy your vehicle, how good your costumes were on the final day for Halloween, how, if you did roadside repairs on your own, like that's worth points because you're in crap vehicles. So they expect things to fall off. And then you have random acts of stupidity points. So my teammate and I, we didn't come in first, second, or third out of 17 teams. What that belt was for was random acts of stupidity. So we won that award. And the best part is the belt actually says it underneath. It says random acts of stupidity. And our name wasn't Ghostbusters. We were the Ghost Escapers. Dave and German, 2 idiots who drool in the face of death.
Nice.
So, you know, that was fun. But, you know, even in the picture you saw, we were masked up. You have all these precautions to do this rally, even though you're in a car for 6 days. You can only really interact with your co-pilot. You both have to show up and do all the necessary steps to show like you're COVID free and you just got a recent test and you're not going to mingle with, you know, locals or livestock, and you're just going to do your driving and get on your way. And so that was one good thing I did during COVID. That was awesome. And, you know, that was my reward, a rinky-dink paper shiny championship belt. So I'm guaranteeing you, Bill, your medal is going to be worth way more.
Dave, the whole way through that story, the only thing that I can think is the links. I'm the lemon. It's whether or not I'm going to make it to the end of my journey. I feel like that lemon.
And I think that's the best part. You know, that car that we drove it from the middle of the Mid-Atlantic to Chicago, which is already a 13-hour drive, and then add on 6 more days of driving, and it made it. And we only had one hiccup along the whole way, and we fixed it. And then to make matters worse, we didn't chuck the keys in the ocean. German drove the car all the way back across the States 6 more days. So if you think that you are less capable than a 20-year-old vehicle that did 5,700 miles total in 2.5 weeks or whatever the math, or 2 weeks, man, Bill, you're going to crush this thing, man. Just take good care of yourself and eat well.
Oh yeah, I'll do that. Don't you worry.
And that brings me nicely on to today's podcast sponsor, which is Subaru.
Yeah. So, and Robin, you said you've got nothing going on. You're just doing jiu-jitsu. Like that's it. No other.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's it sounds mega boring, but
no books, no reading, no movies, no nothing.
To be fair, get up in the morning, 5-minute commute down the stairs, make a cup of tea, sit at my desk, sit at my dining room table, the other end of the table to where I am now, sit there and work all day, mess around and play with the kids. When I get, once I finish quite early because I start early, and then, doing whatever we can for classes on Zoom and stuff. So there's not much spare time. I'm no less busy than I was before.
Yeah.
But it's just not what it's supposed to be,
And Pete, how are you handling your downtime? Are you doing anything different?
Yeah, I'm the luckiest in a way, or I'm lucky in a way, in that because we're still allowed to do personal training outside one-to-one, so I can still train my clients. So I get to interact with 5 or 6, whatever, however many I've got that day. I get to actually interact with other people in real life. So you know, I'm kind of lucky from there. And then because I've got my own studio, I've got my own gym. So I've just been working baseline strength training. I've got some challenges this year, which depend on COVID as to whether I can or can't do them. Some paddleboarding stuff. So that's kind of set up for May that I'm going to paddle round. We've got an area called the Lake District, and I'm going to paddle round the perimeter of all of the paddleable lakes in the Lake District, and that's targeted for May for me to do that.
What was the distance? Just for clarity, just for
what's that?
The day's benefit. How far is that?
About 970 kilometers, and I'm going to do that over the course of about 10 days. I'm aiming for 10, 12 days. So that's the plan.
My goodness.
Yeah. So I'm lucky, like I say, I get to see people every day. I've got my own gym that I can just walk into, and I've got all of the equipment I could possibly need to train. So that's just kind of what I'm doing. I've built a little extent. I've taken over the unit next door, so which sounds big, but it's not. It's like 300 square foot. So I've been redecorating and doing that up ready for when we open up again with some more equipment in there and a bit of a permanent little mat space for one-to-ones and that kind of stuff.
Brilliant. No, that's brilliant.
So, yeah, I'm probably the luckiest. I'm in from that respect. All right, I'm getting to do a bit less jiu-jitsu than the other guys, but I am lucky in that I can at least keep training and, throwing some weights around rather than going completely crazy.
I don't know. You're still doing jiu-jitsu with Bob?
Yeah, Bob the grappling dummy. I get to do a little bit of work with Bob, but he's not very dangerous.
You get that feedback.
Yeah, it's just missing a little something. I don't know what it is.
Like a spine.
Yeah, that's it.
So now I guess my kind of last question is, you got this going on, right? The Lockdown Chronicles. What's your lineup for either the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Like who do you got on deck?
Ooh, go on, Robin. You can go through the list.
Next week on Thursday, we're doing Thursday rather than Friday, just because Alan Baker's coming on.
Good person.
The following week, back to Friday, we've got Haldor back on.
Perfect.
Nice to speak to him, just to hear about some sort of normality of being back to training.
Yeah.
After that, I don't know. Actually, we've got a couple of people that said yes when we asked the question the other day, so we need to follow up after that.
Okay, cool.
At the moment, I guess we're going to have to spec out all of February, probably all of March, might do April.
On the safe side, 2023, it's looking good. So obviously Alan Baker, incredible talent, professor status. He's a 3rd degree black belt under Master Sauer. Runs the Atlanta Martial Arts Academy and Atlanta Martial Arts Training Center. I might be getting that wrong, but I've interacted with Alan quite a bit over the years. Never have anything bad to say about him. I'm pretty sure Master Sauer is going to be focusing a lot of his efforts through that facility because it is such a massive facility. And now that Professor's in Savannah, Georgia, Savannah to Atlanta is not that big of a travel. James Finizio, who does have an academy in Savannah proper, I'm just not certain that his school has the other amenities that they need for a world conference. I think he has incredible mat space. And James Finizio might be someone you want to get on the show.
Yeah, sure.
James doesn't have, a lot of notoriety like some of the other black belts who might actively compete or the ones who are constantly being invited to these seminars. But James is a great talent. And like I said, if it weren't for him getting just like the inspiration to contact Bernardo Faria and Michael Zenga, none of this Bjj Fanatics stuff would have happened for Pedro Sauer or myself. So, James has some go-getter attitude and he's got a massive studio. I just think it's like 98% mats. It's like mats and cubbies.
Fair deal to me.
Yeah. But when you're doing the World Conference, you want to have like classrooms and you want to have some other stuff. You guys never made it to the States for one of them, right? They're a big deal, and there's a lot of instructor certification training, classes on how to grow your business. You're sitting down, you have a clipboard, you're taking notes. It's an experience and a half. And having been to, I think, 8 or 9 of them, because we had one in the fall, one in the spring, every year for the last almost 5 years. Yeah, they're big, and we've had everybody from Henry and Huron, Rylan Lazarus, Greg Nelson, Jeff Curran, Johnny Carlquist, James Garner. It's a pretty expansive list of top folk, and I end up getting snagged to do some free stuff almost every single time. So I'm not on the clock, but I'm always on the clock. And the benefit is, every single time you have a world conference, you also get 3 to 6 hours of Pedro time. So that's the big draw for those guys. And just having Pedro so close to James and James so close to Pedro, he might be someone good to have on the show.
Yeah.
Alan, I'm guessing when he comes on next week, is going to talk a lot about the new structure to the board of directors since he's on it. He'll probably talk about, the next conference, which I believe is in April, and maybe some other cool things like how he's doing marketing and good stuff. Then Haldor, he's been a godsend to me during all of this because he has shipped me some of the coolest stuff you can imagine. He got me 2 bags of ground coffee. You know what I'm going to say?
I think I might know what this is. Hang on, see if I've got mine in the cupboard.
I've got.
Oh yes. 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 That's awesome. So
There's
yeah,
shit going around the world.
yeah, shit coffee. Here we go. No, and it's so rad because the whiskey infused smoked sheep dung coffee, and it's so like unapologetically Icelandic that I fucking love it. Like and here's the best part. He knows I don't drink coffee, but I will cherish that till the day I die. And I will have it until it's mold and ash. And it's still just so awesome. But, Haldor sent a few such things. And every single time it's like, my eyes light up. So can't wait to see Alan Baker's show. I can't wait to see when Haldor's back on. And then after that, you said you don't got anybody lined up?
No, we had a couple of people who said yes in the affiliate group the other day when we put the question out. So we'll see. We just didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time.
This was a bit like lockdown in general, wasn't it? The podcast. We said, "Oh, we'll do a podcast. We'll knock out like 5 episodes."
Yeah, we never expected to be in our mid-20s.
But
we haven't been doing them every week,
Yeah, for sure. And you can space them out better. You can do some other things differently. It's to the user. You guys make it up as you go and talk to the people you want to talk to. You don't just have to have every Tom, Dick, and Harry on your your screen. So, if you have somebody that you're like, oh man, I really like to pick this person's brain, or man, I heard this name get dropped and I never thought to reach out to them. Maybe it's a good chance to get to know somebody.
Yeah.
Man, it's awesome. Do it.
We've met so many people, really, haven't we? Like, I'd say, I don't know what the split is, but say it's 50-50. A bunch of people we've met, like yourself, like Haldor, like people that we train with, and we have trained with before. We've had Keith Owen on, Louis Heredia, etc., etc. But other ones, we've never spoken to these people before. But it's been really really good for that.
Yeah. And you never had any contact with Mike Diaz before, right?
No, we did. He took our blue belt test.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Because there was a story. Alan Hopkins was supposed to come over, but there was an issue with his flights and stuff. So last minute, Mike Horahan basically got on the phone to Mike Diaz and said, "Oh, do you mind flying out to the UK?" And he pretty much packed his suitcase and left within a couple of hours, by all accounts.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He came and did our test.
So Mike Diaz is man, he's such a gem. Not only is he one of the nicest guys you'll meet, but he has this almost like James Bond style charisma to him, where when he runs a class, it could just completely kick your ass, him doing like his Gymnastica Natural movements as his warm-up. And yet when he gives the command, you're just like, yep, I'm doing it. Here I am. And it's like, man, Pete, if you can just like shave a bit of Mike Diaz off and like put it in your back pocket, your client base would explode. And I don't know why he doesn't do it. Like he does it for fun for himself, but he just has that kind of personality that he can get people to do things that are miserable with a smile. So
maybe that should be Pete's tagline. That might be where you're
Miserable with a smile. Yeah.
You know, I don't want to say too much that's kind of up in the air, but I'm looking forward to when I can do my own jiu-jitsu stuff again. And when I'm not training here, you know, I wouldn't mind going in very specific directions. And the things I want to focus on is just, you know, building better grapplers. I want people to know that wrestling is wrestling in the sense that you're standing up, you take the person down, you get taken down, get back to your feet. We're horrendously behind the ball curve on that lately as a community, even though the leg lock game is increasing. It used to be the other way around. It used to be we had no leg locks, but we at least would start standing and do like, you know, clinch, pummel, takedown, hip throw, this and that. We have it in the Pedro Sauer curriculum, but go across town, you know, see how the other side lives. Are they doing that at, you know, gym X, Y, or Z? It's hard. Like the jiu-jitsu community just is not doing great with their takedown knowledge and takedown defense and getting back up. So, you know, I want to kind of bring it back to that time when it was, well, you got 2 points for a takedown. And if you ended up in their guard, you're still getting 2 points for the takedown because you're still on top. Now, if you pass the guard, you're getting 3 points because now you can punch them easier. If you go to knee on belly, your punches are stronger. If you go to mount, your punches are stronger. Like the reason why those positions have points in a sport tournament is because they were predicated on the fight. We're losing our martial way and we're becoming more art. So, you know, there's room to be safe, but make the mindfulness of why we're doing what we do be in the front seat again. And I'll be excited for when the restrictions lift and I get back to that. Now, I know that I was in contact with you, Pete, about some miniatures that I've been painting. And unfortunately, the store that I was trying to buy them from in the UK, because the game I'm into is Warhammer 40K, and they're produced by English, you know, the English folk. It's hard to get anything out here, and yet they appear to have tons of stock over there, but they don't ship internationally right now. So I was going to finagle something with Pete to have a store send it to him, and then he was going to send it to me. But I ended up not needing the pieces after all. But I've been doing miniature modeling, and it's so weird to be like this guy who's known for footlocks, and next thing you know, I'm sitting like painting something that's 30 millimeters tall. But it's therapeutic. It's a different level of focus, attention to detail. You know, you're still very methodical in your process. My paint's shit. My paint jobs are utter garbage. But it's good to be a white belt at something again, right? So that's why I ask. You know. Anyway, I'm gonna kick off, but
yeah.
You know, just going through, Bill, keep up the rowing, you know, keep me posted. Send me a message every once in a while, you know. Let me know your progress when you hit like those huge mile markers of 20%, 40%, 50%, whatever they are.
When you go through particular towns on your route, Bill.
Yeah, get postcards sent to me. I'll send them on to you, Dave.
Please. Robin, read a fucking book. do something. Learn a card trick. No, seriously though, you know, listen, as long as you're with your family and you're giving them the right time, man, I appreciate that you're spending your time wisely. Yeah, I mean that only in jest. That you know you
I should read a fucking book.
How dare you not learn how to make bread on day 330 of lockdown? You know,
what you need to do, Robin, is get a really good. I've heard there's been some good releases from Bjj Fanatics recently, so maybe you could get one of those.
Yeah. No, I'll just sit in the corner crying. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, you can take notes.
What the tears of them?
Yeah. And then Pete, you know, I hope that new space that you acquired, that unit next door, I hope it pans out, and keep me posted on that, because obviously you guys are my friends and I want everybody to succeed, and I want you all to have a good mental state. So some of that is based on what you do with your free time. Some of it's how you adequately use the time that you've got. And so grateful once again for you guys hosting me and having me on here.
Yeah, appreciate
Look forward to watching next week, and you'll probably see me in the chats making fun of Haldor's shit coffee, but it's good times. All right, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Do you want to put out your social media channels or anything?
Oh yeah, do that.
Like the usual sign off. Nothing. Just
No,
fine.
I mean, no, it's lanky_mongoose on Instagram, and I just had to fire that back up. I'm back on Facebook, and I wanted to unplug from the matrix, and I did for like a full year, and I felt so strong. But then, when you're trying to be a business owner and you're in the contactless world of COVID, you have to have the social media to at least let people know you exist. And especially for product endorsement and sales, I had to kind of make people know I'm still there. And
yeah.
So yeah, I'm back on Facebook, and then it's my pseudonym is Lanky Mongoose on Instagram. So good stuff. Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome.
Great to see you, Dave. Take care.
Pleasure.
Guys, stop that live stream. Thanks, guys. Check it out if you want to check it out. Obviously, you've got the YouTube video, or you can check it out on any place that you get your podcasts, like Spotify or